Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Perdue.
Hey, come on in. It's time for us to get some that little inspiration, little gold nugget that you can hang on to use later on when something comes around trying to kick you in the teeth. You know how life is. It all keeps coming around, but we build up, and we get past it. And the big thing, help the other person in front of you. Pay it forward. All right, today we're going to talk with the man here, and he's talked about how in a just short few months that lost his job, had a stroke, and divorced within short few months. So welcome to the show, Trevor Schade.
Thanks, James. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, I'm glad you're on here, man. So again, I like your dining room area there. I think I got one just like that.
Perfect.
So all right, so yeah, we all get kicked in the teeth, and it seems like once we get through that, something else comes along. And for some people, sadly, it comes more often than other people. Mm-hmm. But no matter who you are, somewhere down the line, you're going to get kicked. And it's how you respond and go from there. So, all right, Trevor. So your story, man, put us involved where you think is best for us to jump in.
Yeah. I grew up with a pretty relatable to most folks background. I mean, I grew up in a very blue collar auto mechanic, turning wrenches in the Midwest type family. You know, middle class, working. My dad ran a couple different businesses and started some up, so I got some business exposure there. And my parents were divorced when I was 3, and I got to see both of them. Had a good relationship with both households and all that, and so, you know, just a very normal or normal to these days type beginnings. And
it may not be too normal today, right?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know.
Things are a lot different.
Yeah, I don't know what the divorce rate is anymore, but I'm like, man, nobody wins in a divorce. It's all just trauma all around. So,
oh yeah, I can believe it. I've never been married, but I can believe no one really wins.
No one does. Like I was 3 years old when my parents got divorced, and so, you know, you take your subconscious scars, and then you can kind of unravel those in your adult years if you lean in to grow in that way. And so, yeah, I had the school, and, you know, into college, and I walked onto the Nebraska Huskers football team, and left college because I thought I had this world licked, and I knew all this business savvy, and I had created this belief and this illusion of control since I was about 8 years old. That was the first time that my dad said he saw his son, and he said it was a sad moment. I didn't like to be controlled. You know, it was probably the trauma from the divorce or whatever. And so I considered emotions a form of control. So I was choosing and opting not to feel them unless I ran them through a filter first. And, you know, does this anger serve me on the football field? Well, okay, then I'll go ahead and feel that one. Well, that transferred into controlling of my environments, controlling of people around me, and thinking that I actually was doing this. And you know, it was very controlling, but in reality, as my life unfolded and I started getting dealt cards that I didn't create myself. Sometimes things happen, and I was actually able to see this illusion of control. And it came to a head in I guess probably the pinnacle turning point in my life was in my early 30s. I had run several companies, and I had a few things start shutting down, and I had a divorce start happening, and my kids were also about 3, so it was almost a repeating of the cycle. And I had a 5-plex. I work in real estate, and I had a 5-plex get bed bugs, and I had to let everybody out of the leases during winter months because, and so I was carrying the rent of 5 units and trying to mitigate these. It was at the same time that I also had my job get taken away. I mean, it was laid off, a department restructure, and so my process improvement programmer job was now gone, and I had a real estate license, so I went 100% self-employed commission for the first time ever. And I'm not sure if I'm going to have shelter for my kids, food for my kids. Am I going to lose custody because I don't have those things? We're in the middle of a divorce battle. And I had one of my closest grandparents went into hospice and then passed away. And it was the first time I experienced a death of a family member.
Yeah.
And as all of that tension and that pressure is building, and I'm looking at financial bankruptcy and losing custody, I go have a very normal and very good, by the way, very good chiropractic adjustment. And because my system was under so much pressure and strain and stress from all of these other pieces, my artery in my neck wouldn't stretch a normal distance, and it snapped. And I had a vertebral artery dissection. And right there on the chiropractic table, I had a TIA stroke, and half my body shuts off. And I get taken to the hospital in the ambulance, and I start thinking through, and I start having this realization of, is this where life ends? Do I spiral to darkness, or do I dodge that bullet, and do I come out of this but half my body never works again? Or do I somehow in some crazy fluke fully recover? And it was just a pretty big wake-up call that everything that I believed I was doing right, everything that I believed I was making happen, and it was my doing, that was the turning point that I started to realize I do have influence. And I'm a business coach, and I'm a business analyst, and I help people automate and outsource their businesses, build culture dynamic gelling teams built on inspiration rather than metrics. I go do these coaching sessions all the time. I believe in influencing your world and influencing the likelihoods and influencing the probabilities. But it is an illusion to think that you are controlling them and you are going to make happen what you want to happen the way that you plan. And so that was the separation in the two.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where we think we're in control, but really we're not. And there's some things in our life it's uncontrollable, but we try to focus and do it our way when we're fighting against the tide coming in.
Yep.
So
Yep, that's absolutely true.
I remember go back a long back into your story when you're talking about doing the being the mechanic and everything like that. I remember at 12 years old, my dad, he was a mechanic. He used to build those big old Peterbilt trucks.
Yeah.
Here in Nashville, right outside of Nashville.
Yeah.
I'm in Tennessee. And I remember 12 years old, he took me out in the backyard to show me how to do my first brake job on a car. And I was 15, 16 years old. He passed away when I was 16.
Okay.
And 16, I remember he had taught me enough that I pulled my first motor by myself, tore it down, rebuilt it, and put it back. And the first time firing it up. So, like I said, I said earlier that times have changed. I don't know how many kids are into that, to do stuff like that. So
yeah, I've got an interesting side story on that too. As my kids, I've got two sons. They are currently 13 and 15. And about 4 years ago, I bought $28,000 worth of parts, including a frame and a body, because I grew up in this auto mechanic world, and I love the bonding and the teaching and the tinkering and all of that. I love it. Well, now I work in automating and outsourcing, which means I don't necessarily go do all of my own auto mechanics. I don't do my own home repairs. I do believe in the value of time and which lane should you be in, unless it's fulfilling, of course. And so I wasn't teaching my sons some of these things that I really valued. And so I bought these car parts, and we went down to my dad's shop, and we spent 8 months building a Jeep. and
Oh, wow.
truly from the ground up. We put a thumbprint reader in for the ignition, everything custom, and just, the frame didn't fit here, so we cut it and re-welded it. The motor was 4 inches too far forward, so we cut it and the transmission out and we re-welded it to the frame. And it was this whole project that we all got to do together and
See, that's awesome. That's
build that
awesome.
bond.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And the
great.
kids have that memory,
Yeah,
forever that Dad and we put this thing together.
yeah, that's
So
right.
that's
That's right.
pretty cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
and my dad did all the technical stuff that it required a real knowledge. My kids got to do all the really big fun stuff like lug nuts on the wheels, and anything that was hot, miserable, burning, or expensive. That was my zone. That was where I
there you
got to
go.
live and breathe,
There
right?
you go. That's right. So yeah, when you get old enough, we'll let you test this out then. But
Yeah.
right now, just watch and learn.
Yep.
So there
Yep.
you
That was
go.
it. That was
Yeah,
it.
I remember one big story with my dad. He passed away again at the age of 42,
Yeah.
and he was actually my stepdad, but I considered him my dad.
Yep.
My mom and dad divorced before my first birthday, and never met my real dad. He never sent a birthday card, never sent Christmas, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
And but here recently, last year, I got to meet my half brother. He reached out to me. We got to meet, but he passed away when I was 12 and never met him. So I considered the stepdad my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people he loved me when I dearly needed it, and he busted my butt, and to which I needed more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
growing up at that time.
Yep. Definitely. Yep.
So
Yep, I think that's so valuable to have both. I mean, you got to know that you're loved and you're safe, but also there's got to be a standard to play to, and that grows us into what we're capable of and shows us what we are capable of.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we veered off a little bit to talk about
Yeah.
dads, but let's get back to you because
Yeah.
I'm very interested. Again,
Yeah.
I've never been in the middle of a stroke.
Yeah.
I've never got a divorce,
Yeah.
but I am paralyzed,
Hmm.
not from a stroke, from spinal cord injury. So
Hmm.
I understand what you may have been thinking at that point.
Yep.
And oddly enough, my grandfather, I do remember when I was 11, 12 years old, he had a massive stroke and heart
Yep.
attack, and he
Yep.
was paralyzed on his left side. And
Yep.
I remember going in and watching him picking that left arm up, trying to
Hmm.
exercise it and hoping it was going to work
Yep.
again. So
Yep.
when you talk about half your body
Hmm.
possibly not being, moved, I
Yeah.
understand what with him.
Yeah. Yeah. When I made a phone call to my dad and I said, hey, I got a pinched nerve or something. They're going to take me to the hospital and have me checked out. That's how it sounded to me when I'm on the phone at the chiropractor's office. Ambulance is on the way. And he then tells the story to me later and says, I couldn't understand a word you were saying
Yeah.
because my face wasn't working. And I just didn't realize, didn't know. It sounded fine in my inner ear. And no, I was pretty shut down, 50%. And they did take me to the hospital, and I had to have a bed of capillaries that not everyone has inside of my that was able to transfer blood from the right side to the left, and so there was very little time where there was no oxygen or no blood flow.
Yeah.
And I spent a few days at the hospital, and then 2 days later, everybody's talking about, all right, we're about to release you, and the blood thinners and all that kind of stuff. And you know how in a hospital the nurses they really, I mean, they military style make a bed. It is like super glued down and everything is crisp. Well, I get out of the shower and I come to the bed and I'm grabbing the covers and I'm yanking the covers out of the hospital bed just so I can get into it, and my neck pops and
Mhm.
I retore the artery.
Oh wow.
And I had a second TIA stroke there at the hospital. I remember, and this one was much worse. This one is where I lost strength. It wasn't only just pins and needles and lack of motion, but I wasn't able to open my hand at a normal rate of speed. I could look at it and I couldn't do it. And it crept up on me. I remember that I was sitting there waiting to see, am I okay? And all of a sudden my foot and my hand goes numb. And then my calf and my forearm goes numb. and then my thigh and my bicep goes numb.
Oh,
And
wow.
I remember leaning away as I felt it creep up my chest, and my diaphragm went numb, and my breathing changed because now I've only got half of a working diaphragm, and it crept up the back of my skull, around my face. My eye went black, and that was when I really thought, this is where you spiral to darkness. This is what it
Yeah.
looks like when all of a sudden this was the deck you were dealt, and it's over. And they checked me out, and they did a CAT scan and made sure I wasn't bleeding. And they said, "Yep, you just moved a blood clot, and you had another tear." So I got to be there. I was at the hospital another 4 or 5, 6 days, and got healed up enough to go home and all that. But about that. It was the day before I left. It's the Nebraska Med Center, so very world renowned, known hospital that people seek out and go to. And I'm on the neurological floor, and I'm walking around. I've got all the feeling back, other than maybe an L shape in my hand and
Hmm.
in the very bottom of my foot. And so I'm walking around and spending my days there. And as I'm walking around this neurological floor, I can still see it to this day, looking in these rooms, and I can see the man with the gray hair and his dusty blonde haired, what I would assume is a daughter, is hanging out with her back to the hallway, leaning over him. I go to the next room, and I see a man and a woman, both with gray hair, and they're in there spending time together. And I go to the next room, and there's a lady, and there was no one in her room. And I get down to the corridor where it crosses the elevator and the front desk, and I see at the other end there's a lady with a little walker, and she moves the walker 1 inch, and then she moves her feet 1 inch,
Yeah.
1 inch, 1 inch. And I had this break moment where it hit me like a wave. I semi blacked out. My legs went numb, and my right hand hit the ground, and I realized I am the only one on this entire floor that can both walk and talk. Everybody else that was in this floor with me, they could do one, the other, or neither. And it cracked my shell. This whole belief of control, of controlling my emotions, of the only safe space that exists in this world is when I control how it happens. That's the only way I can't be hurt. All of those beliefs shattered that day, and I started feeling the emotions of people. I started understanding the pain that everybody has felt in one form or another. And now I had this whole lineup of really rough cards that I could now relate to people on. And
Yeah.
if they've been through a divorce and they've felt those words, and so many of your listeners are going to know these words, they feel those words, "You're not wanted." That's the message. No one has to say the words. That's all you hear and all you feel. The job layoff was the same thing. It was corporate. It was a business decision. It doesn't matter. All I could feel and hear is, "You're not wanted." And those two happened back to back, and I had 2 installments of those. And then the bankruptcy that was looming, and somehow I survived and got out of that without that occurring. But I got to feel that financial stress and pressure and feel and torment. I was genuinely on the brink of suicide. I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old at the time, 2 boys. They didn't need dad. They didn't care about dad. They liked mom. They were little babies. And so again, I'm like, I'm not needed. I'm not wanted. I'm not wanted. I'm not wanted. Like, that's all I could hear.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a really dangerous place to be when you start going, oh, well, I was in a codependent marriage for 12 years with my high school sweetheart for 17. And I lost all form of identity. I didn't have any hobbies. I didn't have any friends outside of our altogether friends. We did everything as a family and nothing as individuals. I'm like, it was not 2 healthy individuals deciding to join components of their life together. It wasn't that. And then you have it all yanked out from under you all at once, and it is a very, very dangerous place. And that was the rock bottom moment. And I had kind of that crossroads of, do you lean in and do you take a hard path of feeling and being vulnerable and learning and working through the pain, because you have to feel the pain. Every heartache, every trauma that I've ever had, I have had to, when ready, I've had to take a beat and
Yep.
rest a minute. You don't need to dive right in. But as soon as you got a little steam, you have to take that minute to slow everything down and just feel that pain and feel that loss. And then once I got through that, I could build on it. But now I didn't have to believe that I had to be the everything and I had to be perfect. I didn't put that pressure on myself. I didn't have to be what I used to be. I didn't have to have the control. I didn't have to have to. I didn't have to. I could actually just decide, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Who do I like spending time with? What does make me happy? I mean, I was so far gone that I had to make lists in my phone of who do I enjoy spending time with? And I had to write their names down just so I could remember it. And the same thing with, what do I like to do? And I remember I wrote down, I like going to comedy shows and I like scuba diving. And I just started making this list of my identity of
Hmm.
who I was as a healthy person in this world. And it was pretty difficult there. I remember I got to feel full depression in that zone. And I used to think depression and anxiety were weakness. That was the
Oh,
the
yes.
80s and 90s judgment, right?
Yep.
And and I've seen certainly in today's day and age where that's been exploited a bit and taken a little too far the other way at times, where someone will claim mental illness, and it's like, yeah, you're doing a disservice to the folks that are actually
They're actually
struggling with
going
the
through,
truth, right? I have a hard
yeah.
time with. I'm like, no, you just don't want to take responsibility. That's all. So, and not always. I don't want to tip somebody over the scale. I'll entertain it and go down that path and road with them, but a little bit, it's like there's a happy medium to be found and a truth to be had in there.
But it
Um,
seems like you were doing a lot of, again, search me. You, like I said, you have gone out of the way to be whoever you're with, their person.
yeah.
And when all that stable was gone with the divorce and
Hmm.
the health stuff, now you're having to refine who you really are
Yeah.
to be happy again.
Yep.
So
Yep.
the
That's
one
right.
time I'll go back to when you were talking about being able to walk and talk, and some of the others could do one or the other or
Yeah.
neither.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of a time when I first got spinal cord injury, went to a rehab in Birmingham, and I was doing the old comparison.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
here I could see somebody else that couldn't move from his neck down.
Yeah.
I could move my arm, and then I was moving my legs. I couldn't stand, but I could
Hmm.
at least move my legs. And so now I'm thinking I'm better than that person is.
Yeah.
But then I
Yeah.
remember seeing the first person that had a halo on and this
Mhm.
vest to keep his head straight. Saw
Yeah.
him stand up one day and on his own. I'm going,
Yeah.
so now I'm feeling bad because I couldn't stand up like him, and I
Yeah.
wasn't wearing all that stuff he was. But
Yep.
then I was feeling bad because I'm better than this person,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
couldn't move. And
Definitely.
so that's when I had to learn you can't compare yourself.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah.
it all our lives, but we need to learn to get out of that comparison.
I 100% agree. And even if somebody hasn't experienced a physical trauma or a physical loss, they're
Oh yeah,
still
yeah,
they're
yeah.
still doing it. They're doing it in business. They're doing
Again,
it with their own,
emotionally,
yeah,
yeah,
their own
exactly.
self-worth.
Financially, business,
Am I a good parent? All of them.
sports wise.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I don't care what area you're in. You're
Yeah.
comparing yourself, and in some fields it's not bad because
Right.
it gives you an idea to what to shoot for if someone's better than you,
Yeah.
and to try to improve yourself.
Yep.
Okay, but you definitely don't want to do it comparing someone's worse than you, and
Yeah.
because you don't want to dive down to that, but
Yeah.
also you don't want to think you're better than them because
Right. Yeah, I think where I landed on some of this, because I did all of this and imposter syndrome in business and
yeah.
all of I I have to simplify things down so that I can remember them or keep track of them. I'm always so busy and I'm running, and I'm always achieving and doing and working with people and trying to help them with their goals, and I got to where I could remember the words, I don't tear down anyone, including me. So if I don't tear myself down, now I'm not any less than. And I don't tear someone else down, now I'm not any better than. If I just stick to, no, I'm not going to tear me down and I'm not going to tear them down. I am an equal in my own life. And I can be happy for them. I can admire them. I can learn from them. I can be motivated by them. And I can also inspire them in the ways that they're hoping, wanting, and wishing and seeing.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden I was an equal in my own life.
Yeah, that's great. I like that, what you just said with all that. So, I mean, you can still, even though they are a little bit more than you, they're still looking from somewhere because
right.
they're that successful. They've been able to read the room and learn how to get from other people.
Yeah.
And even if it's someone like me down here, they can learn something from me.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's if they want to look and learn. So
yeah, definitely.
I like the old saying, I can't, and I've mentioned it a few times. I need to look it up one day. But the guy that once said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You're in the wrong room.
You know, so because I guess I keep forgetting to look up who, because I looked up before, and then there's 8 different, versions of it. And so I guess I don't want to give one person credit. I guess
yeah. I don't know where it originated.
Versions of it, yeah.
I've heard that too. I've heard it in so many different platforms and so many different books now that I'm like, I don't remember the origin.
Yeah. So, all right. So I want to go back. I'm just deeply impressed that you took the time with your kids and build that Jeep.
Yeah. That was
to
great.
get that hands-on and let them build with you and get that experience and learn in life that they could do this certain thing to save $100 on an oil change or $200 to change their own brakes. And so to do, again, that's one thing I miss when I got paralyzed. I can't go out there and work on a car. I need some work done on my van. If I was up and moving, I know I could do it. But I can't with everything. But I love to sit out there with someone working my car van and sit out there and just talk with them while they're doing it. Just to now this stuff, you're talking, that was 40 years ago, stuff I knew. Today, where all the cars are, where all the computer and sensors, I'm going, no, that's enough for me.
It's beyond me. I leaned into it enough to enjoy it and get my boys around it, but I went into computer programming and then business and automation and all that. So it was a little different path, and I really do enjoy it when I get to do it as well. And tinkering in the backyard, or building something terrible and ugly and way too heavy in the garage because I don't know how to do it with efficient materials, but I can cut a 2x4 and screw it together. There
you go. I remember one time I'm in a wheelchair and ended up buying this old 57 Buick Super, and all this and what I would like to do, imagination, think what I like, never did it, but I couldn't even drive it. So I get my brothers to drive me around, and I ended up trading it to somebody to paint my Firebird for me. One time I did buy this 59 Dodge something, had that big old fins in the back, and it'd been sitting there for years. And we ended up getting it started. And after we got started, I said, all right, young, tow it out here. Bought it for like $100. And I said, we'll get it started. Then we ended up getting rid of it because it was just the challenge of just getting it started. So that was pretty cool. All right, I'm taking away from you, Trevor. But I'm just glad that your boys were able to get that with you, that experience and everything with you. All right, so now after you've got your strength back and got back into working, and how things going now?
So that
and how long ago was this with the stroke? Oh, I didn't get I didn't get how many years ago that was.
That's been about 10 years ago now.
Okay.
Maybe a little more. But yeah. So yeah, for all of our viewers here, I did somehow get to step out of that experience with the never happens fluke of full recovery. And when I speak on stages and I teach business and concepts and building and overcoming and all of these things, and it doesn't appear that I've ever had a stroke. I'm always paranoid. You sit in one position too long and a leg goes numb. I have to
Yeah.
remember which leg it was, and so I carry that a little bit. But yeah, so I came through that physically well, and I now emotionally was vulnerable, and I could be present, and I could study who do I like being in this world and who do I want to be. Which again, from another coaching standpoint, when somebody's looking at a relationship, whether they're already in one, a marriage, or they're dating or anything like that, if someone doesn't take the time to go through the same steps that I was forced into, with all of these situations, it took that much to crack my shell. Some of these listeners here are hard-headed or hard emotioned or afraid or have trauma in their upbringing, and it might take something that big and traumatic and all those 7 things at once to finally crack your shell so that you can realize the truth. But if someone doesn't go through that and they don't do the study, they don't know who they are as a healthy individual. And one of the lessons I've been teaching my boys ever since they were real little was, you need to know who you are really clearly before you could possibly attempt to identify who pairs well with you. I mean, how could you do that side of the equation when you don't know the first part? You're just
Yeah.
going to take a dice roll and hope you get lucky with a person that does fit and pair well with you. So anyway, from a relationship standpoint with my kids, dating, parents, anything like that, your relationships are all going to improve by certainly coming through something like that. And that's what happened to me. And I leaned into studying, and I leaned into working, and I leaned into books, and I leaned into people, and I would pay for the therapy or the help or anybody that could offer me, even if it was just their one category of experience and expertise, because I would have a hard time finding somebody that had a lineup of how to deal with all of the scenarios that I just went through. But I could find somebody that knew how to deal with divorce, and I could find somebody that knew how to deal with stroke, and
Exactly.
right? So I had to get a whole lineup of people that I could lean into for this. And when all of that went down and I went 100% self-employed, that was in the real estate world. It was the process improvement, process design, business consultation, and real estate pursuits and business at the same time. And so I became a real estate agent while I was also running a consulting business. I scaled that business into a team of agents, of 26 agents at a brokerage. And I had automated systems in overseas, Philippines, India, Mexico. Also had teams in Dallas that would do our management and our accounting. And I built these larger organizations that were very automated and streamlined and allowed me to run them from every beach in the world and be more passive. And I was able to build into speaking about investing, started buying some single family homes, doing some flips, started learning more about appreciation, compounding, buying a multifamily and taking rent from $700 a month, decking out the place all gorgeous and increasing rent to $900 a month because you changed the desirability. And that changes the appraisal, and that changes the equity. And all of a sudden I started learning how to leverage these assets and the business side of it. And so now I could have both the extremely linear business acumen, programmer, Lean Six Sigma data processing, for
Hmm.
any listeners that know what that is, with emotional empath, softy, feels energy off of others, believes in inspiring teams to produce over data metrics. And I was able to start blending these two worlds into solutions, advice, perspectives, conversations, and really start helping people through that. And that's what I do more and more today on podcasts like yours. I can talk and help people through some of that pain that they've had in any area,
Yeah.
any downturn that they've had. I haven't been through all of them. You talked about comparing. The one piece that it worked for me, and I would tell this to anybody that's going through a down spot, just find something that works for you, even if it's a temporary coping mechanism. The piece that I could hold in my head, and I've held in my head maybe through 4 different downturns in life, is I don't have a kid that's hospitalized. That was the one that worked for me because I could see, and I've even talked to parents and they were happy and they were okay and they had gotten through it and they'd figured how to cope and they were still able to spend time with their kid. And there's all these positive upturns. So even when you talk to those folks that have a kid that is in a hospital, they're looking at someone else going, yeah, but I don't have it that bad. So they're still doing it too, but that was the one that worked for me. And I did grab onto that so I could just hang in a posture of humility, sympathy, empathy, and I could keep going and at least push myself to the next day.
Yeah, and we got to be able to find some, most of the time, and I would say most time is 99.99%.
Yeah.
Whatever you're going through, somebody else has already been through it.
Absolutely.
All right. I mean, what, 10 years ago with the COVID, that was new at that time, but the respiratory stuff wasn't new, to what to do. All right. So my big thing is, if you're going through something, try to find somebody that's been through it. How do they get through it?
Yeah.
Be sure to find somebody you can trust to talk to, whether it's your spouse, best friend, somebody you know is not going to stab you in the back. If it's your minister, professional, your doctor, again, everything's at the tip of your finger. Google for a mentor and a coach, and they've been through it and they can help you.
Definitely.
So, all right, Brian. I'm sorry, Brian's on tomorrow.
No, that's all right.
I was actually with Brian Tuesday, and all of a sudden, boom, a storm here where I live, and he's on the other end because I called him. Yeah. He said, "I'm waiting for you to come back," and I don't think we're coming back right now, Brian.
Yeah,
so he's tomorrow. Brian,
no worries.
Tomorrow.
No worries at all.
Trevor, appreciate, man, meeting you and everything.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Hey, go ahead and tell people your social media, websites, how they can get a hold of you with your coaching.
Yeah, definitely. So www.trevorschade.com. My last name is Schade. If you misspell it, it'll still take you to the right spot. Being in real estate, my cell phone number and my name and all my socials are everywhere. But if you go to trevorschade.com, there you can see all of my socials at the top. There you can connect with me. You can even book on my Calendly. If you want a free consultation, let's start there, because really, when it comes to sales and what I do for business, I really do believe that I don't have the right solution and product for everybody, in my experience. So if we have a conversation about what business organization are you running, or what team are you trying to gel, or what life are you trying to live from a beach while you run things, or what pain are you trying to get through, or what very tangible, actual day-to-day methods and tools and mental triggers did I use to get through some of the muck that I went through? Let's have that conversation first. I don't do what I do because I can make the money and pay. Of course, we're all happier when we get to do the things that we love and get paid for them. But for the love, man, when I've hit ground zero and I just needed somebody to lean into for a phone call, that was way worth it. I've taken people to so many different coping mechanism things that many of their family would condemn them for. So I bet a fair number of your listeners have tried to find some coping mechanisms and they've been scrutinized for it. Whether somebody leans into drinking some alcohol or going to bars, or whether they start doing recreational drugs, or they go get tattoos, or they go get piercings, or they start being promiscuous. And all of those things, I have really measured it against, no, I was actually suicidal. And if I have to help curb somebody, and I'll drive them to get their tattoo, but let's see if I can talk them into not getting it on their face. And
hey, Jelly Roll, he's not talking about you, Jelly Roll. You look good. You look good with your face art.
Hey, If somebody's doing it on purpose and thoughtful and of sound mind, and it's not during a point and a season of trauma, I am all for it.
So I'm like you, especially as younger kids.
Yeah.
Think twice about putting it
Yeah.
where people can see it, because you got job interviews, you've
Yep.
got other people. Yeah. Think very long and serious about that.
Yeah.
Not everybody's successful with that type of art.
That's right. Don't deny yourself. Just hit pause for 12 months and see
Yeah.
if in 12 months you still have that burning yearning. And if you do, well, at least you waited the 12 months. That's some serious discipline. So, yeah. So I would say helping people get through some of that trauma with coping mechanisms, and even just a phone call. I mean, when I was at my lowest, I had a friend that the number of times he took my phone call and he heard the same story over and over and over of what I was going through, and he just let me talk, and it was what I needed. So yeah,
sometimes you don't need someone to tell you anything, just to listen.
Yep, I definitely agree.
So and Jelly Roll, I've been trying to reach out to you, man. You're not responding. I didn't send you a couple of things on Facebook and your Instagram. All right, I want you on my podcast, Jelly Roll. Like he's listening. He may be one day. Who knows? So, all right. My main thing right now is again, like I've said, I've never been divorced, never been married. So I'm waiting on AI to be invented to tell me who my wife should be.
Definitely.
So, I don't even know if I don't know if I trust AI, but still.
Not yet. Is my connection cutting out?
You are getting a little slow. The video is, but your audio is okay.
Okay, great. I don't know what happened. I'm watching it not stream, and I'm like, well, I'm still connected. I don't know what happened. I didn't have anything change, but it definitely changed on screen. So
the video is lagging, but your audio is still going great.
Perfect. Well, this will just be a different form of, look, see, everybody, you don't have to be perfect. You just dive in and make it happen with the best that you got, and you can still have good information delivered and a great time and laugh about it, and it may even be more relatable.
There you go. I'm in the speech competition. I actually do my little speech next week, and last night I was listening to the other people, and the judges kept telling me 80% is just showing up, 80%, and I'm going to show up and then get off and say, give my grade.
Yeah. It'd be like, hey, there you go, 80%. I showed up.
I showed up. Give my grade now.
I love it.
All right, Trevor. Again, I appreciate you being here, and I'm glad you were able to recover. And again, I'm glad you're helping other people. So I'm big on this pay it forward thing.
Yep.
So, all right, Trevor. We know people are hurting and struggling today, and if you can leave us with a positive message, that'd be a blessing, man.
Definitely. I would say I really wish my audio and video was lined up for this right now, but it is what it is, I guess. This is what we get sometimes. I would say when I was at my lowest, I had heard in many recovery, addiction programs, coaching, guiding, teaching, a day at a time. I mean, I've heard that. I've learned that. That's a very known phrase, a day at a time. And I would tell someone, if you're in true full depression or in true full can't see the light trauma, or wondering, do you even want to see tomorrow? Do you even want to walk the coals that everybody tells you you'll be fine on the other side? Definitely. And you even know it and you don't care. If you are in any zone or space like that, I would tell you that for me, a day at a time wasn't good enough. I had to do an hour at a time, and that saved my life. I was able to look at the clock at noon and know that I could make it to 1 p.m. And then I could know that I could make it to 2 p.m. And did I get out of bed successfully and ramp up and gear up that to my max potential? No, not necessarily. But did I make it to 2 o'clock and then to 3 o'clock? And then I could, 2 days later, I now could make it from noon to 3 o'clock. And then I could make it noon to 6 within about a week or two. And then I could start looking at a day at a time. But I had to start at that foundational level of an hour at a time, and I could just make it from noon to 1.
I was going to say, start with those baby steps
Yep.
and build up.
Yep, that's right.
All right. Well, I appreciate it again, Trevor. I'm glad we got to meet and everything like that. And I'll put your information, your website and stuff,
Okay.
your social media in the show notes. Make
That
it
sounds
easier for
great.
people to find. All right. Thank you for being here. Everybody else, hey, be sure to share this out to someone you know that can use a little bit inspiration here and to help them move on in life. Again, grab just one little gold nugget that's going to help you. Grab 3 of them and share 2 of them. All right.
That's right.
With other people. All right, everybody. I'm Dr. James Purdue, the professor of perseverance. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.